Woo! It's the boy, Bubba, Lutz, coming through. Hella clutch, flawless, can't be touched. It's your boy, Bubba, Lutz. Yeah, I need that hot take. I need the truth and everything that is not fake. So tell me who's the GOAT, I'll tell you who's not great. And which team always.
Welcome back to another edition of the Bubba Lutz Sports Podcast, everybody. I'm your host, Bubba Lutz, and this is episode 129 of the podcast. Christian McCaffrey gets paid and stays winning on this edition of the Bubba Lutz Sports Podcast. And we're going to talk about how he is now the highest paid running back in NFL history. And I'll tell you why I think this is a great contract for Christian McCaffrey, and it'll work out for the Carolina Panthers. Before I get into that, a few things we got to put on the table, right? If you're listening to this on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, make sure to follow the podcast, and thank you for listening. If you're watching this on YouTube, if you haven't subscribed already, please do. We're on 67 subscribers if you haven't seen it already on our channel. We are 8 away from our goal of 75. I've been wanting to set that goal for a long time, a few months now, and we're so close to it. So if you're watching this and you're not subscribed, please do. And if you know anybody that is interested in a sports podcast or knows me and would be interested in this, or just to get the number up, I'd highly appreciate it. Let's get to 75. That would mean the world to me, and we'll get closer and closer to 100 subscribers. Our first 100. That would be crazy. And thank you for watching on this. And the other thing I want to talk about is the passings of two great people in sports yesterday. First one is T. Jackson, a longtime quarterback in the NFL. Not really well known because he wasn't a starter for most of his career. He was a backup for a long time with the Seattle Seahawks, and he tragically passed away yesterday in a car accident at a very young age of his late 20s. And, if you don't know him, if you really never heard of him, I'm not going to say that I've followed him his entire career, but every time I hear that name, I'm like, oh, he's the quarterback from the Seattle Seahawks. And, he had one or two games where he got to start in a preseason. He got a lot of snaps. But if you follow or watch social media, Russell Wilson immediately came out and said how amazing guy he was in the locker room, that he was like a brother to him. And those are the type of people that in the media, it's probably going to go away in a couple days where not a lot of people are going to talk about it. But the man was well respected. He was he was loved in the locker room by a lot of players, and it's sad to see another great talent, a great athlete, and a well-liked person in the sports world leave the earth this year in a tough time already. And it's hard to see that, especially at a young age, in a car accident too. It's these car accidents, plane accidents. And unfortunately, the mother of Carl Anthony Towns, Jacqueline Towns, I believe, passed away yesterday due to coronavirus. And that one probably hits the most. When I heard the news, when I read the alert, it gave me chills. It really did, because of the fact that, I've seen some videos of her being at games and being so passionate, being so supportive of her son, who has done amazing things for himself and his family. She did a phenomenal job at raising him and giving him the best possible life to get to this point. He's one of the youngest and best players in the NBA right now, under 25. I mean, the man's stupid young, and he has so much talent. He has so much potential to put into this league as one of the best big men in the NBA. And a lot of that credit of him being successful is due to how he was raised. And you can't do that without your mother. And he loved his mom. She loved him. And to pass away in these terrible times, especially like that, is horrible. I wish nothing but the best for both the Jackson and Towns family. The prayers go out to them. And I wish them nothing but the best. We move on to what we're going to talk about today. Another young athlete who's under 25 and still has a lot to prove is Christian McCaffrey. And I'll just say this straight up. This man stays winning. This man can do no wrong. Can we go through the list, people? Let's get it started. First of all, he's 23. Young. He was born in 1996, a year before me. He is now the highest paid running back in the NFL history with 4 years extension, $64 million, $16 million a year. Let's put the tail of the tape on there. Me, Armando Bubba Lutz, 6 foot, 180 pounds. Probably have $500 in my bank account right now. $1,200 on the way due to the stimulus check. About $800 in credit card debt. about $11,000 in total debt. And making maybe a few dollars on this episode. And once again, as I mentioned before, I did shave my head. And I think I'm comfortable with this now. You've noticed that the last couple of weeks I've been wearing a hat, this specific hat as well. So if you're listening to this, go on the YouTube channel. If you're watching this, you're going to get a little treat. Because I think it's time for me to acknowledge that, I'm bald for the time being. I have very short hair. And it's going to take some time to grow back. Cutting the hair was mistake number 1. And then shaving it was probably mistake number 2. But all in all, we're here, right? So, to cap off my comparison to Christian McCaffrey, I don't think it's the best, but hey, here you go. All right? Get all the laughs out right now. If you know me, you probably never seen me with this short of a hair, and since like middle school. And if you're watching this for the first time off of like TikTok or social media, I'm glad I put a great first impression on you. I hope you stick around because I look dumb as fuck. And I can't look that way to my computer because I have a big ass head and I look like an alien. I have a big brain. Don't know how to use it sometimes, but hey, I got a big brain, so I got a big head. And I ain't gonna turn around. But hey, we have the hat off. I think it's time. So if you see the thumbnail and you notice that I'm bald, I'm probably gonna get at least 3 comments saying, "Mr. Clean," Joe Rogan, I'm a thumb with 2 thumbs. Hey, it's growing back fast. I'll take it. I'll take it on the chin. We roll with the punches. Christian McCaffrey, right? So he got the money. He's got the age. But most of all, no matter what happens, if he is out of the league in a year and has nowhere to go, he gets to go home with a supermodel girlfriend in Olivia Culpo. And if you don't know who that is, just take a moment of silence for the fallen one. That is you, who doesn't know who that is. But supermodel, first of all, she used to date Danny Amendola. That was a beautiful couple. I love that. She was very supportive of the New England Patriots and of him. Once again, beautiful. They then broke up, and then she stayed with the NFL. I mean, she went to another team. She signed with the Carolina Panthers and went with Christian McCaffrey. Did I mention she's beautiful? So they're now the power couple. No, you can't say that with Giselle and Tom Brady. They're the second power couple in the NFL. Well, then Russell Wilson's here. The third power couple in the NFL. Beautiful babies are going to be done with those two. I mean, Jesus Christ. Can I get adopted by them? Because that would be amazing. They are beautiful people that are now together. He has the gorgeous blue eyes. She has beautiful everything. So no matter what happens, he gets to go home to that. And I think that's worth more than $64 million. But that's arguable to a lot of people. Hey, it's a win-win, right? This man has everything that you could possibly want. So Christian McCaffrey stays winning. The whole point of this podcast, before I go on and just talk about how beautiful his eyes are, or how beautiful Olivia Culpo is why this contract makes sense. Why this contract is unlike any other in the running back position. And that it's a real outlier of what the market is for free agency or for the market in contracts. Because I've come out and said on almost every single podcast in the last probably 4 or 5 months is how the quarterbacks, how the running backs and wide receivers, they're getting paid high, like elite level money, yet it's not the elite players that are getting paid. It's average guys. In the quarterbacks alone, we've seen it. We've seen Ryan Tannehill get $30 million a year. Jameis Winston is asking for $30 million a year. Dak Prescott is asking for more than $35 million a year. And you know that I like Dak Prescott. I love Dak Prescott. But no matter what, I think they have to pay him no matter what because that's what the market is. But no quarterback is worth that much money unless you're a Patrick Mahomes, unless you're a Lamar Jackson, unless you're a Russell Wilson. Guys that have proven time and time again that they are elite. They are the top of the pinnacle of the NFL at that position. Same thing goes for the running backs. And this is where the running backs are a lot more difficult to judge because you can never know from a year-to-year basis how a running back will be because there's such a short lifespan for them. Think of guys past their 30. The anomaly that is Adrian Peterson, who is still playing to this day. Frank Gore, who is still playing to this day, most likely will retire after this. Probably before the season starts or after next season. Frank Gore, Adrian Peterson, guys that have been around the league for over 10 years, and they still have something to prove. They still have something to give. That is unlike that running back position. Most guys are out in 5 years. Think of, let's just say, because it's just quick in my head, think of DeMarco Murray. DeMarco Murray was the best running back in the league for a short period of time. I mean, when he was with the Cowboys, 2014, in that realm, that man was the best running back in the league. I mean, he was phenomenal. And the Cowboys decided, we're not going to pay him. We're okay with you going to the Philadelphia Eagles because we think we've used you too much. You have too much, you have too much steps in your, what's the phrase I'm trying to say? You got too much, like, oh, I'm stupid. This is what I said. I have a big head. I don't know how to use it. You got too much on the track. You got too many miles. You got too many miles under you. God damn, that was horrible. It's been a rough one. Yeah, they just decided that, look, he's getting a little bit up there in age. We feel like we've used him too much. They ran the ball so much. And it's not worth paying him that much because we feel like on a year-to-year basis, this contract is going to look bad. And that's one of the ones that worked out because he went on to play with the Philadelphia Eagles. Didn't really work out there. Went to Tennessee and really fell off. I mean, he's doing great things with Oklahoma now. He's now a coach there. But, he was supposed to be the starter at Tennessee, and then Derrick Henry took over. And we've never heard of DeMarco Murray again other than the Oklahoma thing. And that's one of the things that is hard for running back. But also with the running back position is the track record of how bad contracts have been over the last couple years. We talk about $64 million, $16 million a year for Christian McCaffrey on a 4-year span. Think of the contracts that have just come up. He now surpasses Ezekiel Elliott in the amount of money per year. Zeke will make $15 million a year. All in all, who do I think is better at what they do right now? I think it's Christian McCaffrey. If I had to choose from Zeke or Christian McCaffrey, I'm picking Christian McCaffrey. I think a lot of you will be surprised by that. But I honestly think that. I really think that, for the most part, how versatile Christian McCaffrey is. He is a receiver and a running back. He can just be the offense. It's the same thing with Alvin Kamara. The man can be a receiver, he can be a pass blocker, he can be a rusher. He can do everything, and he does it at such an elite level. Especially for a guy his size. He came into the league pretty scrawny, but he was fast, short, and then he bulked up. And somehow he's getting better every single season, even though his rookie season was phenomenal. Same thing with Alvin Kamara. He had a bad season last year, but by no means do I think it's just going to slope down from there. He's going to bounce back because of the position he plays and how well he plays it. It's very unique. And Zeke plays it in a somewhat similar way. He can be a pass blocker, he can be a running back, he can be a wide receiver. But the system that he fits under doesn't allow him to do that at the best capability. He did that very well in Ohio State, but hasn't been able to show that with the Dallas Cowboys. And from what I've seen, it's just more of him being used as a running back. And I think with the addition of Tony Pollard, he'll be what Zeke should have been as a wide receiver. They'll use Pollard more for the receiving portion with screens and like little out routes, stuff like that. And then you look at, as you go through the list of running backs that have gained big contracts over the last couple of years, think of Todd Gurley. The man can't even get his money because the Rams have no money to give him. And one of the big reasons why they can't give him the money is because they paid him that first year with a big contract. And from that point on, it's been terrible. Todd Gurley took the NFL by storm in his rookie season. And in his second season, he had the sophomore slump, but it was still a promising future, a promising career for Todd Gurley until the knee injuries came into play. He did have the knee injuries in Georgia, but it wasn't until that second season and ultimately the third season to where you saw a shell of a running back and as a player out of Todd Gurley. How much was he getting paid? I had the story pulled up. Where is it? There we go. All right. Pulling it up. See, Todd Gurley, 2 years into his contract, and he originally got $45 million guaranteed. $45 million guaranteed. I think 30 of that is still owed to him. $45 million guaranteed, and within 2 years, he got traded to the Atlanta Falcons. And even then, I think Atlanta, they're not even going to pay for the contract. They didn't. This is kind of just like a project for them. They're not really giving up much for him, and they're moving on from Devontae Freeman, who was past his prime. It makes sense. And they're still stacked on offense, so you can really say that Todd Gurley doesn't have to take the load that he did in Los Angeles because he was the offense. Like, if Todd Gurley was not succeeding, the Los Angeles Rams could not succeed more toward Jared Goff succeeding as a quarterback. And now you start to see the pieces fall apart in Los Angeles. You see the window finally closing for LA, where they said, we're just going to throw money at every single one of these star players and see what we can do. Now they can't pay anybody. They got rid of Clay Matthews. They got rid of basically everyone on their defensive end. And on offense, Todd Gurley's gone. Jared Goff looks like a bust. Their only promising thing is their wide receivers, but they got to pay him. They got to pay them someday. They got rid of Brandon Cooks, so it's Cooper Kupp, Robert Woods. I mean that's pretty much all it is. They re-signed Andrew Whitworth? I think they did. I may be wrong on that. Don't quote me on that. But I mean, they just have no money to give. And now, even these last 2 years, they made the Super Bowl, but it wasn't Todd Gurley that ultimately got them to that Super Bowl. It was just the whole offense and the defense getting them there. Todd Gurley was still experiencing those injuries. And you just start to see just the lack of explosiveness, of dominance that Todd Gurley once had in the league. You see a shell of a man. You see a shell of a player. So that contract is a bust. At some point, he was the highest paid running back in the league. And that's a bad contract. Then you look on Le'Veon Bell. The man held out for months upon months for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And he wanted to get paid. He was the best running back in the league because of the way he plays. He's so unique, very unlike any other. He's a powerhouse runner, but he's so agile and so patient that no one could imitate what he does. And he deserved the money. I think he deserved the money, but to not play and waste a year of your career, that's hurtful, especially with the team of the Steelers. They needed him. I think James Conner did a great job of replacing him that season, but it would have been a lot better with Le'Veon Bell. And then he signs with the New York Jets, which was $52.5 million. $52.5 million. And what, a year or two into it, they're looking to trade him. That's a bust. he hasn't done terrible. It was just I think it was just a rebuilding stage that just didn't work. And one of the reasons why is that, like, Le'Veon Bell got paid. And I don't think he really cared. I don't think he cares anymore at being atop the running back position. Plus, when your game plan is to stop Le'Veon Bell, and all you got to do is make Sam Darnold throw, I think that's a win. Because, personally, I think Sam Darnold is one of the worst quarterbacks in the league. He is... His decision-making... His throwing ability is phenomenal. I think his attributes at the actual physical portion are great. It's just the mental part that he's not ready for. He left USC too early. I think he should have stayed another year, but he went for the money. He went for the NFL. And I can't blame him for that. And then he goes to New York, where it's a rebuild stage. They put him in a terrible position where they're not going to have anybody. But they went out to get Le'Veon Bell because they had the money. So it's Le'Veon Bell and Robert Anderson. That's your offense. No great offensive line, no stacked weapons around him. An okay defense, lackluster defense. And then you get Adam Gase as your coach. That's your big mistake. So Le'Veon Bell was failure from the beginning because they put so much money into him and they did some terrible decisions across their organization with their coaching staff and with their quarterback personally. And now they're looking to trade Le'Veon Bell. That's just a bad situation, but it's also a bad contract when you just look at the money of it. Did the Jets get what he was worth? No. Did the Rams get what Todd Gurley is worth? In his first season, yes. Everything after that, when he actually signed that contract, no. Zeke, it's debatable, man. I think it's too early to tell whether that contract was worth it. Because he has his moments. You see the spurts of phenomenal play by Ezekiel Elliott. And I think this season is the deciding factor because now he has an offense that works in favor of everybody. It's not just Zeke, it's not just Dak, it's everybody involved. And if Zeke can succeed in this system with Mike McCarthy and Kellen Moore, I don't think that it's worth the money. And that goes to Dak Prescott and Mark Cooper. That goes for everybody on that offensive side of the ball for the Cowboys. But Zeke, the problems off the field, the suspension, the play this past season where it was good, not great, is it really worth that $90 million that was up on the table in his contract? Right now, I'm leaning toward the no. The only reason why is because from the very beginning, no contract is worth that much because the market is broken. You're always going to have to pay the next man up that's up for a contract because of the previous guy. Let's say, the easiest one I can mention is the quarterbacks. When Jared Goff and Carson Wentz get their contracts, and they're getting, over $100 million guaranteed. I think Jared Goff got $108 million guaranteed. Dak's asking for $110. When you put the standard for a good quarterback at $108 million guaranteed and right around $30 million or more a year, Jared Goff is your standard now. He's the starting line. From that point on, anybody that you say, oh, he's a better quarterback, then you got to pay him more. And then it just goes on and on and on. So Jared Goff, the next man up was Carson Wentz. Is Carson Wentz a better quarterback than Jared Goff? Yes. So he gets more money. Is Dak Prescott a better quarterback than Carson Wentz? Talent-wise and just overall skill set? No. But I think Dak Prescott has played better in the NFL than Carson Wentz has, and the injuries favor more to the durability of Dak Prescott. I'm willing to pay more for Dak because he's playing better than Carson Wentz. And head-to-head, Dak Prescott wins it most of the time. Cowboys bias. Whatever. That's so not true. I'm basing it on actual stats. Passing yards, touchdowns, interceptions, games played, games started, injuries. Who has played better? Dak Prescott. I am agreeing with you that Carson Wentz is a better quarterback. Like, you're building a quarterback, I will take Carson Wentz. But Dak Prescott is playing better right now. So I'm going to pay Dak more. So all you people that say he's not worth the amount of money. So then you're saying Carson Wentz is not worth that much money. Then you're saying Jared Goff's not worth that much money. Until Ryan Tannehill, to Phillip Rivers, Tom Brady, the list goes on and on. Then when it goes to the point of Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson, they are getting paid a shit ton of money. I mean, it's going to be ridiculous how much money. If you're thinking $110 million guaranteed for Dak, I would say $120, $130 million guaranteed for Patrick Mahomes, at least. And then what happens? Then it's either going to just inflate from there to where quarterbacks pass that, to where you think he might be the next Patrick Mahomes or he could be better. Then you're paying him $150 million guaranteed. Then you're paying him $40 million, $50 million a year. And that could either lead into just a higher salary cap for the NFL, or it could just crash and burn and nobody gets money. Then you're just replacing anybody you can with just, average guys. And that's what I'm seeing on ESPN and Fox Sports, where people are like, trade Dak Prescott so you can get Justin Herbert for the 5th overall pick and then pick up Cam Newton free agency. What the fuck are you talking about? How can you sleep at night thinking that and say that's a good idea? That's ridiculous. You have to pay people now. You have to pay players. There's no working around it. You're not going to get a phenomenal franchise quarterback at a Justin Herbert and guarantee that when you've invested 3 or 4 years in Dak Prescott. It is so hard to find a Tom Brady. It is so hard to find an Aaron Rodgers. What makes you think that by just trading away your picks and save yourself money that you're going to be confident in Justin Herbert or Joe Burrow, Tua Tagovailoa? Like, it's not a guarantee. Think of all the quarterbacks in these past few years to where they haven't worked out. The best quarterback from last season was Gardner Minshew out of the rookies. That's not even like a franchise guy. I love Minshew, but he's not Tom Brady. He's not Aaron Rodgers, which is the ultimate goal for a quarterback. This is where it gets more difficult for a running back, because of the fact that I don't think you need to get an elite running back anymore. I think Christian McCaffrey, Kamara, and what's another like versatile guy? I'm trying to think of one. That might be the only two exceptions, really. I'd say I'd pay for Joe Mixon. I really would. Other than that, I can't really think of a top-end running back that I'd pay stupid amount of money for. Because other than that, like, I've looked at the Todd Gurleys and the Melvin Gordons. Melvin Gordon's another good example of the contract just being terrible. Like, it was not worth it. Austin Eckler's playing better than Melvin Gordon in LA. Like, these contracts aren't worth it. And when you look at the Super Bowl winning teams over these last couple of years, think of the Patriots. Do they have an elite running back every single season? Absolutely not. I think Sony Michel has been the best running back for them in over a decade. And you can even say more than that. LeGarrette Blount was a good running back, but he was just power. He was a 3rd-and-1 guy. He was a goal line guy. I think Sony Michel is more like an overall better running back. And he was there for the Super Bowl. Like, he did very well. And they're not going to pay him a stupid amount of money because he's not an elite running back. He's a good fit. And that's where I think the running backs are a bad position for big contracts, because I can get a Sony Michel. I can get think of like Austin Eckler. They'll probably have to pay him a good amount of money, but not like this stupid amount of money. Like Tony Pollard, that'd be a good fit. Like Tony Pollard would be a good running back, because that was the consideration of like not paying Zeke and just going to Pollard. And honestly, I was kind of okay with that. Zeke is one of my favorite players that I've ever seen in my entire life, but I never think that that's worth the money. And do I think he's worth $90 million? I've said it right now, no. So I would have gone with Tony Pollard. Like Arizona, they paid so much money for David Johnson. Who's a better running back right now? And who was the better running back for them last year? Kenny and Drake. Kenny and Drake will get paid, but not $90 million. Not $60 million a year. So it's hard to get by with an average quarterback because you need everything around it to be better. And with, say, Ryan Tannehill, it's like you got to pay Derrick Henry. You have to pay Derrick Henry because that's your offense. You got to pay the offensive line. You got to pay the wide receivers. Then you can just kind of say, oh, we don't really need much at quarterback. The fact that they paid $30 million for Ryan Tannehill is beyond me. But perfect example, because it just came to my head, Blake Bortles. Blake Bortles with the Jacksonville Jaguars a few years ago where the defense literally carried them through the season. They had Leonard Fournette. They had a good set of receivers. And they had Blake Bortles. Like, Blake Bortles was one of the worst quarterbacks in the league. But all he had to do was game manage. And got him to the AFC Championship. I mean, they paid him, which was stupid. But, like, ultimately, that's kind of the one alternative to, like, say, you don't need an elite quarterback to win games, to make it that far. You just need a good team around you. Has been one of the few exceptions. But I think it's much more difficult to do it with a quarterback than with a running back. Like, with a running back, you can get away with just an average running back that's good, not great. There's plenty of examples of it around the league. To pay these guys, Todd Gurley, Melvin Gordon, or Zeke, money is ridiculous. Except if you're Christian McCaffrey or Kamara. Christian McCaffrey will give you everything. He will be the offense, so you need to pay him. Teddy Bridgewater, getting him on that good contract makes more sense now. And you have some good developing receivers. I like what they have so far. DJ Moore. They have Curtis Samuel. It's becoming really good offensively for the Carolina Panthers. Joe Brady's their offensive coordinator. Matt Rule's an offensive coach. They just need to work on that defense. And I think if they can work on that defense, they can be a above 500 team next year for a rebuilding season. I think that'll work out for them. But it was very important for Christian McCaffrey to get paid. And I think this is a contract that makes sense. I'm willing to pay Christian McCaffrey that amount of money because I know it'll be worth it. I'm 99% sure Christian McCaffrey will continue what he's doing. I honestly think, on one of my unpopular opinions on TikTok, that he deserved a lot more credit at the MVP talk than was said. Because what I base MVP on is, without you, what happens to that team? Without Lamar Jackson, the Ravens would have been good, not great. Because they had great running game. They would have used the receivers better. They were one of the worst passing teams in the league last year. So slide in another quarterback that is more a pocket passer. He would have used Hollywood Brown a lot more. He would have used Hayden Hurst a lot more and Mark Andrews a lot more. And then they would have had Mark Ingram, their running game solid. They have a great offensive line. Their defense was just phenomenal. So they wouldn't make the playoffs. Like, we can all agree on that, right? Russell Wilson. Now, here's one that you can say, well, you can talk about him too under the same conversation with Christian McCaffrey. Without Russell Wilson, what are the Seahawks? A horrible team. I mean, I was not a big fan of what the Seahawks did last season. I did not think they would make it that far. And they're a one-and-done team in the playoffs, in my eyes, because they lose against good teams and they barely beat the bad teams. That's what they were last season. They're a good team. I just don't think that they're Super Bowl contenders, which everyone thinks they are. But without Russell Wilson, what are they? They're like a 3-13, 4-12 team. Without Christian McCaffrey in Carolina, they don't win anything. They go winless. They win one game. Because with Kyle Allen being at quarterback, who did he throw to most of the time? It was Christian McCaffrey. Look at his stats. I mean, that man was on pace to beat Adrian Peterson's record. Multiple records from Adrian Peterson's 2012 season, I want to say. But he was on pace for that. And that's impressive. And the dude has nothing around him. And he's getting better every year. So, Like, he is an MVP player in the NFL. Without him, the Carolina Panthers are nothing. And there was a lot of teams that could have paid him more, or he could have gotten the same amount of money elsewhere. But I like him in Carolina. I think he sees what the future is there, and at such a young age, the man still probably has 8 years left, like in his prime, 8 years left in the NFL. He's so young. To pay him now is not a bad idea, especially with the extension. It's only going to get worse from here with running backs. It's a good contract because it fits to where it's the elite level running backs, and he's getting the elite amount of money. I agree with this contract. If this money was going to, I don't know, fucking Philip Lindsay, for example. I like Philip Lindsay. I'm a big fan of Philip Lindsay. But do you think he's worth $60 million a year? Can the Denver Broncos replace Philip Lindsay? I think they can. It won't be easy, but I think they can. Because he's not a 1 percentile type of running back. He's not a 1 in a century running back. It's the same thing that will happen with whoever signs Saquon Barkley next. Whether it's the Giants or another team. Whoever pays him is getting a once-in-a-lifetime running back. And if he wants to waste his talent in New York, by all means go ahead. Or if you want to go somewhere else and win, and they pay you, good. Because you deserve the money. You deserve the money. Saquon deserves that money because he is just unlike any other running back that I've seen in my lifetime. So is Christian McCaffrey. So is Alvin Kamara. Those guys deserve money because you're not going to replace those guys. Absolutely not. Can I replace a Todd Gurley? Right now, yes. Because you have to at this point if you're the Rams. But I can replace him because he's a great running back, but the injuries are just too much to handle. I can find someone else. There's some running backs in the draft this year where I'm like, they could be a steal in like the 3rd or 4th round. And we'll get into them. I'm super excited to at least say that we're going to do a lot more coverage on the draft over the next week because it's next week. So I'm going to do some preparation, a lot more analysis. I got the whole week to prepare. I'm ready for that. I'm going to bring you guys solid content for that. But yeah, it's I can't tell you who can I replace with Christian McCaffrey. If the Carolina Panthers lose Christian McCaffrey, they're done. Like, why would you even watch them? What's the point? Christian McCaffrey is their offense. Alvin Kamara is the New Orleans Saints for the next 7-8 years. Because he's so young too, but he's so versatile. He's so versatile. So is Christian McCaffrey. So that's why I think that he is worth that money. But I still think the market's broken. This is the one exception that, in my eyes, I saw the notification. I'm like, yes, okay, that makes sense, right? Yeah. So, all right, that's gonna do it for this episode of the Bubble Sports Podcast. I hope you enjoyed, whether you listened or watched. Once again, subscribe or follow the podcast. We'll come back later on this week, in the next couple days, with some other cool videos, some other podcasts, and I'm gonna do a lot more interactive stuff over the next couple days. So keep that in mind. And make sure to follow me on social media for all of that. So thank you for joining, and we'll see you next time on the Bubble Sports Podcast.
And do you cuss when your team get their ass kicked? Now do you keep it classy or you keep it ratchet? For the man with the magic. Now who is he? It's the boy, Bubba Lutz, coming through. Hella clutch, flawless, can't be touched. It's the boy, Bubba Lutz. Yeah, I need that hot take. I need the truth.